let's look at some of the changes I made based on the reference. And I also looked at some more reference, so feel free to keep the same model, but maybe give it a little bit of your own spin. I looked at my reference that I showed you guys as far as the three-dimensional mixer, and then also some other mixers. If you look for a Sunbeam vintage mixer, there's quite a bit here as far as dialing in some of the detail. And adding some detail to this is going to be what really helps us speak as being a good model. Now, let's go through this piece by piece. I went over making the body, right? So that's the biggest change. Make sure you have two beaters. Make sure that they are perfectly aligned. Some of you have had ones where they seem to be off, and they need to be perfectly aligned. Again, I've made those by using a sweep inside the cloner, and also paying attention to rounding. Okay, rounding is also what's going to help this model be great. And when you have to understand how to control the rounding first. So for a sweep, the rounding is going to be controlled by our rectangle rounding here. And then in the adaptive controls, you want to be able to control this here to maybe just get 2 or 3 subdivisions right there. You don't want a ton, have it looking like that. That's really just not good practice. And so I've got 2 there. And then this is a cylinder I extruded and beveled in order to make that look a little bit nicer. And they are parented correctly because we do want to animate this, and so let's make sure that it is possible to rotate this, and so I have everything together underneath one null right there. Beater. The bowl, again, same thing. I made sure to, where's the bowl? Right here. I switched the spline mode to uniform to get equal distribution across the bowl and just make this very smooth. And went in there and really tuned my spline so that would work. The other things I used here, I used 2 FFD deformers. And so one is on the handle, and I think that one's easier to understand. So let's go to the handle here, and the handle is extrude, right? So it looks like that out of the box. And the FFD is this purple box, and FFD stands for Free Form Deformer. And if you make it, make both of them, group them together into a null, and use the FFD, I dialed the FFD down to just 2 by 2 by 2, and then you can go into point mode, and however you deform the box, it deforms the object as long as the object is within the box. So for instance, I wanted the back of the handle to be tapered. I selected these 2 points on the box here. And as I change the distance, you see it deforms the handle. And so that allowed me to dial that down, and I did that there for the handle, and I also did that there for the base to really make that speak a little bit more. Again, paying a lot of attention to the rounding on all of the edges, right? And so how do I control the rounding on this? This is an extrude, so it's going to be in the caps category. Make sure you have a bolt here, something that obviously is holding it together. And yeah, this is a separate lathe. This started off as a lathe, and then I just did some polygon modeling on it to get it a little bit cleaner, right? And so instead of using the bowl, I went back and got rid of my bowl, and then I just beveled and extruded some segments in it, right? So it looked kind of like this. I would just select some edges and then hit MS for bevel. There we go. I don't need that. I'm going to go there. And then I could grab these parts right here. And, oops. Your normals are inverted here. D, extrude them. That's kind of how I did those. Let's fix our normals on this. I'm going to grab it all and say align normals. There we go. That's better. I made this part, ended up with a second. This is, let's get all of this. Is this good? Checking normals, good. We'll call this switch. And this needs to be really a child of this rotor control. So that this, when this turns, that turns. There we go. Right. And so when this, because I believe this is how this motor operates, is, oops. Make sure I'm in object mode. There we go. Great. I also add some detail by beveling here and there and here, right? These small details are really going to make this look good. Controlled the rounding here, sort of did a double bevel, give it a little bit of a unique edge right there. I made sure that this is right up against there so that it's clearly able to turn. Yeah, I just went back and really was careful about the rounding, and so I need you to do the same because you're not going to be able to change any of this afterwards. You really need to put the time in and attention to detail to adjust things now so that they're good. Also rounding the splines. So here, remember when we round a spline point, this was one point here. If we look at this one, let's understand here, right? This is a point here that I grabbed, and then in order to round that, I right click and said chamfer, right, in order to do that. If you look at that again here, like if I were to put one in here and move it like that, right click, chamfer, and you see it splits it out. So you don't have any sharp spline points, you don't have any sharp polygon points. You gotta control the rounding of the edges to really catch the light, make it seem like a legitimate three-dimensional object. So you gotta take the time and fix all of that. Yours doesn't need to look exactly like mine. I'll provide this file so that you can see how I had my hierarchy set up here. But yeah, you really gotta take the time and clean up everything. Pay attention to the rounding before you do the UVs so that everything really works later on. You see I added a little bit of detail right here and there to really make this work.